Hello and welcome to the Expert Edge. This is the show where we bring in experts in their fields of health and wellness practice and hear their stories, learn what they see working in the field of diabetes reversal and prevention. So I'm really happy to introduce today's experts, Bill and Connie DeKramer. Welcome.
Oh, thanks, Lucia. So wonderful to be here with you.
Yeah, we're delighted. Thank you.
I'm so glad that you could do this. Bill and Connie have been helping people restore health and reverse diabetes for over 30 years. Recently, they have added some understanding to their teaching that helps people move beyond the mental and emotional relationship that they have with food that often leads to poor food choices that can actually contribute to the development of diabetes. By removing the emotional aspect that can drive what and when we eat, often when we're not hungry, sticking to a healthy food plan becomes sustainable without huge amounts of willpower or self-discipline. So I really love what the work you're doing, and I'd love to hear from you, each of you, what really got you started in your interest in health and lifestyle. And I don't know which one of you wants to go first, but
Well, Connie started the journey even before I met her, so we'll start there.
okay.
So, what happened for me was I had a very large fibroid tumor. And we had a restaurant at the time, an organic healing foods restaurant, working long, long hours, and it kept growing and growing. And I just had the sense that I could deal with it with food. So I went to Optimum Health in San Diego, and in 2 weeks, it shrunk from the size of a cantaloupe to the size of an egg.
Wow.
Yeah, so I knew from that moment on, oh, food is my answer. And I've just fallen in love with it and wanted to share it with everyone that it would serve.
But it's interesting that you were already running a health food store. Like, what got you interested in doing that?
Well, actually, my first husband had a very serious heart arrhythmia. So we began studying and living macrobiotics. Then it was Ayurveda, and then it was with my tumor living foods. So the three main healing philosophies at the time I explored and lived.
Interesting. So health challenges are what, like many people, drove you to exploring more about the connection between lifestyle and health. Well, what about you, Bill?
Well, it's interesting because Connie was really into the health and food. And when I met her, I was lacto-vegetarian. So in
Okay.
my mind, vegetarian, that's so much healthier than the standard American diet. I'm going to do fine. But I was playing volleyball competitively, and I had so much arthritic pain that after a tournament, in order to get out of bed, I'd have to lift this arm out of bed and hold both handrails to get down the stairs to the bathroom. And I was a jock, I was an athlete, no pain, no gain. Well, this is the cost. Well, I was seeing 4 different professionals to help me with this: an MD, an Ayurvedic physician, a chiropractor, and a physiotherapist. And so, in all of the things they gave me, the exercises, the supplements, I would always ask them, should I be eating any foods, or is there something I should leave out? And they said, no, food has nothing to do with this. Well, this is back in the 80s, mind you, Lucy.
Right.
And when you go back in the 80s, there was even more ignorance than there is now, anyway. So I don't feel like they were trying to hide anything from me. They just didn't know.
Right.
So I met Connie, and she saw the kind of pain I was experiencing, and she saw the way I was eating, which is major lacto-vegetarian, almost all processed foods. She said, have you thought about dropping the dairy? I go, why? The doctors say it has nothing to do with that. She said, well, this is where it gets good. She said, I will cook for you for 2 weeks and we'll see if it makes a difference. And so I went from, my lacto-vegetarian, high processed foods, no processed foods, kale, miso soup, and brown rice for breakfast. And it was a challenge in terms of the taste and all that, but I was going to do it. And in 2 weeks, Lucia, the pain was 50, 60% gone. It was, oh, that got my attention. So as I continued to eat that way, it completely disappeared. It's never come back. And so we got on board with that. I just, we just thought this is something to share with the world. So
It's so interesting. So, Connie, what you had done to, like when you were learning about living foods at the center, so did that mean that you went to a completely whole food plant-based, or was it raw? Was it mostly raw? Kind of what was the approach that you found had worked so well for you?
Well, initially, I did a lot of raw to continue the healing of the tumor. And then I went back to just whole food plant-based.
So cooked.
Yeah, more cooked, not so much raw. But I saw that the raw was more powerful for quick results, no question.
So interesting. So what would you say, what percentage of your food now, if you looked at a plate, what percentage in general would you say you do raw still?
Mostly breakfast. Excuse me.
It's okay.
I got caught in my throat. Breakfast and dinner are raw. And I'd say 100% to 75%.
Okay. So you still have a pretty good proportion of raw food, even if you're using cooked foods as well.
Yes.
But the whole food plant-based, the avoiding processed, oils, sugars, that sort of thing, is a big part, I think, of what you experienced.
Yeah. And what happened, Lucy, is I was using some oil in my beans and lentils, and I was using salt, which I got from the macrobiotic people. But all of a sudden, I had a very minor stroke. That moved me into the SOS-free world, free of salt, oil, and sugar immediately. I didn't know about that world, but I so love the change. We're tasting food in ways that we never did before.
So you've learned different ways to fix and enjoy whole foods. What are some of those new things that you found were things you could do, things you could make that maybe you'd never tried before? I'm curious.
Well, we do so many fresh vegetables. Whatever is available, we're cooking it and creating with it. And of course, we use some whole grains and lots of beans and lentils and fruit. So our eating is very simple, but it is so gorgeous in taste. We love it. We just keep saying, this is so good. I can't believe how good this is.
Well, and so Connie was really committed to go SOS free because her blood pressure had come up. She had that event. And so I was a little reluctant to just let go of all the salt. So she was cooking salt free, and I'd add a little umeboshi vinegar, something salty when I felt to. But little by little, I kept cutting down. And what was interesting, Lucia, is that when I finally went SOS free as well, it's like our taste buds start to change. We start tasting foods. For so many years, I'd heard, add a little salt. It always makes it tastier. My experience is that as we've eliminated the salt, I'm tasting flavors that were underneath the salt that I didn't taste because of the saltiness. So I love it even more now.
But to answer your question, it's Thanksgiving here in Canada.
Yes, that's right. By the way, happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. So what I made this weekend with Bill's help, we did mashed potatoes. And the way we add creaminess to them is with nut milk. We make our own nut milk and add some creaminess. We made a stuffing with a wild rice blend and rolled oats and cranberries and celery and nuts and mushrooms, heaven. And then we did a lot of dark leafy greens, cabbage, kale, bok choy, broccoli, and string beans. And it was so good.
Sounds delicious, actually. And it, you end up feeling so good afterwards as well. And so I love that you're continuing to share your message. What are the ways in which you work with people to get that message out?
Well, let me just come back to one other point we were covering. That on our health journey, because we've been doing this for like over 30, almost 40 years, we've had to refine our diet because, we're always changing. And we can get an idea that, okay, once you go to a whole food plant-based, everything's fine. But, we change as we age, we change as seasons change. And so a big part of our message when we're working with people is to learn to listen to your body. Because here's the real knowledge, intelligence, the best physician actually is right here.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that is an important point, that people need to pay attention to, pain, to different things that's going on in their body instead of ignoring it.
yeah.
Because I think sometimes it's easy to just say, oh yeah, that doesn't feel great, and move on, think about other things, work on other things, and ignore that. Where, I believe God gave us the sensation of pain and discomfort to let us know that something's not right.
Exactly.
It's not like a punishment for getting old. it's saying there's something a little out of balance right here. Let's explore. Let's find how we can come back into balance, because we have the blueprint for thriving. We just have to adjust on the journey to make sure our bodies get what they need.
That's so interesting. And I think that is something people need to keep in mind, that sometimes needs change. Certain kinds of foods may set better, may digest better, whatever, and help you feel better at different stages in life. So for you, I know when we talked before, that you talked about one of the things that you really like to work with people on is not just what they're putting on their food, but how they're thinking about food. Tell me a little bit about what you've learned there and how you see that helping people.
Yeah, well, we were on fire to help people with restoring health, and we knew it could work. And we saw that whenever anybody would go in 100%, really do this, they would always have the results. Because like I say, we have the blueprint there. It's like a car. If you put the right fuel in, it'll run fine. If you add 20% diesel and 80% good gasoline, it doesn't perform well.
Right.
So, let's get them into the high octane stuff, the whole food plant-based. And it always reversed any kinds of chronic conditions they had. They had naturally lost weight, any excess weight they were having. And so we were doing this around a 6-week program. They had great results. And sometimes with some clients, 6 months, 12 months later, we'd run into them and they weren't looking so good again. Some of the weight was back on. It's like, oh, Jane, how are you doing? It's like, well, not so good. Well, what's happening? Well, I fell off the wagon. Things blew up at work. There was so much pressure. I just went back to my old eating habits. So we saw there was a relationship between the mental, emotional aspect of a relationship with life and how we eat. It's not like they didn't know what to eat. They were just they went back to using food to kind of self-medicate. So we saw there was a need to help people understand like the mental, emotional piece, relationship with food. So that's been the latest thing that we've begun to add.
I love that. Go ahead, Connie.
Oh, I was going to say, so we tried so many things. We tried meditation, heart math, Byron Katie, on and on and on. And nothing seemed to work great until we ran into, on a podcast, Dr. Amy Johnson talking about the way we relate with life is the secret to being free of any habit. And that's where it all began. We became certified change coaches, and we've loved what this has brought to what we do.
Yeah, I love that, because I think so often you're completely correct. What lies beneath behavior, if it's not really addressed, and it's at the emotional level, it might be a history of emotional trauma of whatever kind, that without that being addressed, people will self-sabotage.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think that I really love how you were seeing more focus on that link between emotions, our mental thought patterns and beliefs, and our behaviors in whatever area of life, right? Because this kind of emotional baggage that so many people are carrying around today affects every part of their life, not just their health, not just what they're eating, but every part. So when you really address that, tell me, do you have any stories of people you've worked with, some of your experiences, and in how that's really affected people?
Sure. Well, we have one client who is a brilliant person. Really, she's a genius. I don't have any question about that. And she's this high-level artist and a computer scientific engineer as well. So both sides of the brain are brilliant. And she created a binge eating habit from an auto accident where she felt very at risk and then began to use food for comfort. And so she came to us wanting to deal with that. She was whole food, plant-based when she was on the trail. So that was good. That was a great foundation. And what I found in working with her, and I'm learning so much in each client I deal with and that we both support, if you take the whole cycle from the emotion that arises from the thinking and help them walk through to the grabbing for food, and they begin to have awareness of every step of that, often they see it's only thinking that's driving their behavior. You saw no more binge eating. It just, boom, went away, which is wonderful. It doesn't always happen that way. And what was most interesting, Lucy, is just this last session I had with her. She was on the freeway early in the morning when it was dark, and she came upon an accident that she didn't really see, and the car went over debris, and she braked quickly, and a man ran in front of her. She almost hit him. So it was a traumatic event around car accident, pulled over, and with the information and knowing that she has now, she was fine. Isn't that great? That is.
Yes, I love it. Thank you for sharing that. But it really does point out how that kind of work can be really helpful with people addressing the root causes behind their unhealthy behaviors, food addictions, unhealthy relationships with food. And those are often what's behind the terrible choices they're making, right?
Often.
Yeah. What are some of the other things that you've seen that really drive people in bad directions with their food choices?
Well, you know what's interesting about it that we've learned is that it's never the food. We think it's the food that's the demon.
We've got to manage that. It's like, this is our problem. If I get everything out of the house that's bad for me, I'll be okay, And that's certainly a good thing to do. You want a healthy food environment. Makes it much easier. But that's not the real cause. It's not the real issue.
Yeah, so we just show them how our thinking, following this busy thinking mind, can create so many unnecessary difficulties. And it isn't about going back into past trauma even. It's just about understanding how we follow our thinking mind and think that circumstances are doing life to me. It's the way we are in our moment-to-moment thinking. So it sounds a little abstract, but it works. That's the main thing.
Yes, and what I hear you saying is that you're helping people to see where they're falling into like a victim mentality, which is a very powerless place to be and to operate from. And when you understand that actually we have the gift as human beings of the power of choice, and we don't have to be stuck in our stories around being victims and things being done to us, right? We and that's the beauty of the way we're designed with free choice, because we actually can be responsible. We can create the kinds of lives that we want, and we are not slaves to other people's words, actions, so on. Yeah, that's such a valuable message that people really need to hear. So tell me more about, like, how do you share that, and how is it that you work with people? How do they find you? Whatever it is.
Well, one other thing I want to say, if you don't mind.
Yes, go for it.
what we take people to is their true nature. You might call it the heart essence of who we are. You might call it the soul. You might call it the intuitive aspect. But they begin to recognize that aspect of that true nature that's always available, always nudging them toward thriving. Mm. And they begin to see that life has their back, that everything that's happened in their lives has brought them to this point of openness and ability. And as people see that, they just let go of many things they've carried that have been, quote, obstacles. And I love living life from there, knowing that life has my back, so that whatever arises, there's always a gift in it. Always.
And, you know, I think that kind of positive attitude towards the things that happen to us in life make a huge difference in how we walk through them. You know, I come personally from a Christian perspective. And so, you know, when things come my way, it's like I'll say, you know, God understands. He saw this coming before I did. And he's not leaving me. He's going to walk me through this. And there's going to be a lesson in it. There's going to be a blessing in it. You know, even if it's a terrible experience, often it's a way of creating empathy with other people that have had terrible experiences. And you can reach them in ways that people who haven't suffered that way can't. And so I truly believe that understanding that whatever pain we've experienced, negative things that we've been through, can, through the power of God, be blessings and can bless not only ourselves, but other people around us. And that, I think understanding that gives hope.
Yes, you're so
right. And we need hope, don't we? I mean, Viktor Frankl found that out in the concentration camps, didn't he? That it was hope that actually kept people alive physically.
That's true. True.
And what I hear you saying, Lucia, is that the unfolding of life, the unfolding of each individual's life and the unfolding of life in general is always moving in the direction of greater and greater expression of the love and the light that this life is. And when we can understand that that's the backdrop to our personal lives, then we begin to view everything so differently. And as positive as the messages we share, we aren't trying to tell people to just say positive things to yourself. No, it's not positive psychology. It's right. Explore for yourself. What is the truth about life? Is what we're telling you, that life has your back, true if you look honestly at your own life? Because it really doesn't get people to stay on track with their food regimen if they're just trying to talk their way into what they've been told is right.
I agree that just like doing this intentional positive spin on everything is not the answer.
We have that intelligence, and that's why we have people, we say, listen to your body. What we're encouraging them to listen to is the intelligence, which I can use the word intelligence and the word love synonymously. I just feel there's so much intelligence in love that if we listen to the intelligence of our bodies, to the love that this life is, then we're not actually drawing on things from the past or someone's told us, or maybe I can put a positive spin on it. We have the knowing. When we have that knowing, then if something blows up at work, or if I find myself near an auto accident that triggered me in the past, doesn't throw me off the rails. I'm not looking for food to try and deal with, this old traumatic mindset.
And, doing the things that help you unhook from those negative emotions can really, really help people to move forward to a more fulfilling, more abundant life. I truly believe that. So share whatever else you might have on your heart that you want our audience to know about the work you do and about how they can experience enjoyment and health and all this energy. Just whatever you would love to share about that.
And if I go, the main thing I see is life can be so joyful and so much easier when we really understand how it works, and we understand that this thinking mind has a role of supporting the heart, knowing that we are. Everything changes, and it's so delightful without really my having to do anything. That's what I think.
What comes to my mind as you say that is that when we kind of drop out of our heads trying to figure out and control and manage our lives into our hearts, we kind of step into that innocent world that we see children living in all the time before they've got all this thinking going on about what others say or any kind of negative self-limiting beliefs. We step back into that innocence that we all are, that we sometimes put some old thinking on top of, that prevents us from seeing the potential and the love and the light that we are. And from there, our relationship with food completely changes.
Yeah, it is so much around what our belief systems are, what we've integrated into the way we see ourselves, that really does work itself out in our behaviors in so many ways. I think that's really true. And so becoming more aware of what's going on inside of us at the emotional level, and I think can give us the ability to be more empowered about our choices moving forward, right? And to me, it brings to mind that the verse in John that says, "You'll know the truth, and the truth will set you free." And I really believe that it's as we tell ourselves the truth that we can experience more emotional wholeness, and we can move forward to be the people we were designed to be. And I think that is so important. And I would love for you to share with our audience. You have a beautiful free gift available for them. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, Connie wrote a cookbook a couple of years ago, and we've been selling it. And I thought, why don't we start giving it away? So yeah, anybody that's listening, if you would like to contact us, we will send you the link to the free cookbook.
In fact, I'm actually going to put that link in the description right under this video. So you don't have to go anywhere. You can just go to the description under this video, click on the link, and it will connect you to the Amazing Health Effortlessly cookbook called Restoring Health with Whole Foods. And that was a great project you put together there, Connie. And so that's something that if you're thinking about maybe changing what you're doing in terms of food, you want to try something more whole food, plant-based, this will give you some ideas to get going in that direction, and also allow you to connect with Bill and Connie if you want to reach out to them for anything in the future, other things they may be able to be a resource for you for. I just want to say thank you so much for being here with us today. I've really, really appreciated your share.
Thank you.
Well,
Lucia.
I'm so pleased to meet you because we have such alignment in the way we see life and in the way I think we're wanting to serve others.
Yeah. And I really, really appreciate the heart that you all have behind the work you do and the way that you touch people's lives. I just want to say to our audience today, remember that health is wealth, and it comes by choice, not by chance. So thank you for being with us here today.
Thank you.